The sound of tearing paper silenced Terminal C as gate agent Karen Mitchell held up two passport halves, her vindictive smile freezing when she noticed the woman's unnaturally calm reaction. Maya Johnson didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply watched her destroyed passport flutter to the floor like evidence at a crime scene, then reached for her phone with the composed precision of someone who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. It was 6:47 a.m. at Atlanta International Airport, and what started as a routine boarding process at Gate C-12 was about to become the most expensive mistake in United Airlines history. The 28-year-old woman in the navy blazer had approached Karen's counter with quiet confidence. Her polite good morning met with immediate suspicion and escalating hostility. Now, as phone cameras emerged from every corner of the gate area, Maya's fingers moved across her screen with purpose that would soon terrify everyone watching. Have you ever witnessed someone destroy what they thought was your powerlessness, not realizing they just activated your greatest strength? Because these black stories and touching stories of everyday discrimination reveal something powerful about real-life stories in America. What happened next would rewrite every airline's training manual forever. Karen Mitchell had been working Gate C-12 for 15 years, long enough to develop what she called her sixth sense about problem passengers, and the moment Maya Johnson approached her counter, every alarm in Karen's prejudiced mind started ringing like a fire drill. "Passport and boarding pass," Karen snapped, her voice carrying the authority of someone who believed customer service meant interrogation, examining Maya's documents with theatrical suspicion while holding the passport up to the light as if checking watermarks on a $100 bill. Maya maintained her composure with hands folded politely as Karen's performance continued, while around them early morning travelers shuffled through security lines, most too focused on their phones or coffee to notice the brewing confrontation that would soon explode across social media. "This passport," Karen's voice rose intentionally. "Something doesn't look right about it," turning the document over repeatedly with movements growing more dramatic with each flip, drawing attention from nearby passengers, whose phone screens lowered as heads turned toward the commotion. "The photo doesn't really look like you, does it?" Karen's comment landed like a slap, prompting Maya's measured response. "I can assure you that's my valid U.S. passport issued last year." Karen's eyes narrowed at Maya's articulate response, as if proper English somehow made things worse, muttering just loud enough for the microaggression to land perfectly. "People like you always have explanations." The first phone camera emerged from the waiting area as Jessica Morgan, a travel blogger heading to D.C. for a conference, recognized viral content when she saw it, her live stream notification pinging across followers, "Discrimination happening live at Atlanta Airport." Security guard Mike Rodriguez noticed the growing crowd from his position near the bathrooms, something about the gate agent's body language seeming too aggressive for routine document checks, prompting him to walk closer while his radio crackled with updates that would soon become anything but routine. Karen's performance reached its crescendo as she declared, "I'm going to have to confiscate this suspicious document," waving Maya's passport above her head like evidence at a trial. "We can't be too careful these days with all the fake IDs floating around." Maya's phone buzzed with Director Morgan flashing across the screen, but she declined the call without breaking eye contact with Karen, her briefcase sitting beside her feet with premium leather and subtle details that none of the gathering crowd bothered to examine closely. "Ma'am, I need that passport to board my flight," Maya said calmly, checking her Cartier watch with 8 minutes until boarding began. "Flight 447 to Reagan National." Karen's response carried across the terminal. "Not with fraudulent documents, you don't," holding the passport with both hands now, fingers positioned strategically along the binding. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to travel on fake papers." The crowd of witnesses had grown to 15 people with phones recording from multiple angles, while Jessica Morgan's live stream viewer count climbed past 500, comments flooding in with outrage and disbelief as #passport drama began trending in real time. Maya remained eerily still, her composure unnatural for someone facing public humiliation, her first-class boarding pass sticking slightly out of her jacket pocket with gold lettering visible to anyone paying attention, though most weren't. "I understand your concerns about document security," Maya replied, her tone suggesting someone accustomed to handling difficult situations. "Perhaps you could call your supervisor to review this situation." Karen's smile turned vicious in response. "Oh, I will. But first," her hands tensing on the passport edges, "I think everyone should see what happens to people who try to defraud airlines." Terminal announcements continued their steady rhythm with Flight 447 to Washington Reagan National, now boarding all passengers. As Maya's phone buzzed again with the same caller, same decline, while Mike Rodriguez positioned himself close enough to intervene, though he wasn't sure what constituted necessary in this escalating situation. The gate agent seemed convinced she'd caught something significant, but the passenger's calm demeanor suggested either incredible self-control or hidden confidence that made Rodriguez's instincts override protocol. Karen raised the passport higher, ensuring maximum visibility for phone cameras capturing every second, announcing with righteous authority, "This is what we do to fraudulent documents at this airport," believing she was protecting national security. Maya's response came barely above a whisper, but somehow carried further than Karen's shouting, "Are you absolutely certain you want to do that?" The question hung in the air like smoke before a fire, something in Maya's tone making Mike Rodriguez step closer while Karen hesitated for exactly one heartbeat before her prejudice overrode her judgment. The passport tore cleanly down the middle, the sound echoing through the gate area like a gunshot as passengers gasped and cameras zoomed in on floating paper fragments while Jessica Morgan's live stream exploded with notifications, viewer count hitting 3,000. Maya watched her destroyed passport settle on the terminal floor, then reached into her briefcase with movements so precise they seemed choreographed, her fingers finding something that would make Karen Mitchell's triumphant smile disappear forever. But instead of revealing her hand, Maya simply pulled out her phone again and dialed a number from memory, this time not declining when it started ringing, saying quietly, more to herself than anyone else, 3 minutes. Then this ends. Karen stood frozen, suddenly unsure why the woman she'd just humiliated looked more dangerous than defeated, while around them the terminal buzzed with viral content being born, though Maya's attention had shifted entirely to the conversation she was about to have. Phone cameras captured it all. The torn passport pieces, Karen's confused expression, and Maya's unsettling calm as she waited for someone very important to answer her call, someone who would transform this moment of discrimination into the most expensive mistake in United Airlines history. The phone rang twice before a crisp voice answered, Maya's response so quiet that only Mike Rodriguez could hear. "This is Inspector Johnson, Badge 77 Alpha, requesting immediate supervisor intervention at Atlanta Terminal C, Gate 12. She hung up without waiting for response, fingers already moving to her second call while Karen stood frozen, torn passport pieces scattered like evidence of a crime she was beginning to suspect she'd committed. Jessica Morgan's live stream had exploded to 8,000 viewers in 3 minutes, comments scrolling faster than human eyes could follow while Halter Airport discrimination trending nationwide. "Y'all, this woman just got her passport destroyed and she's making calls like she's ordering coffee," Jessica whispered to her audience, phone capturing Maya's unnaturally calm demeanor. Something is not right about this situation. The crowd swelled to 30 people, mixture of outraged allies recording everything, and nervous bystanders pretending they weren't witnessing viral content being born. Karen's supervisor, Janet Williams, arrived at 6:54 a.m., heels clicking with aggressive confidence of middle management responding to routine passenger complaints, completely unaware she was walking into the most expensive customer service failure in United Airlines history. "What seems to be the problem here?" Janet asked, positioning herself beside Karen in solidarity that would cost more than both women's annual salaries combined. Maya looked up from her third phone call, expression shifting to something that made Mike Rodriguez reach for his radio. "The problem," Maya said, ending her call with surgical precision, "is your employee destroyed federal identification documents and created a civil rights violation currently live streaming to 12,000 people." Her words carried across the gate area with boardroom authority, causing Janet's confident expression to flicker like candlelight in wind. Karen's face went pale, though whether from Maya's tone or growing crowd of witnesses remained unclear to everyone except Maya herself. Janet recovered with practiced customer service efficiency. "Ma'am, I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding, but if our agent determined your documents were suspicious, she followed proper security protocols." The statement landed like gasoline on fire, Jessica Morgan's live stream exploding with outrage, while Maya's smile turned sharp enough to cut glass. "Suspicious how, exactly?" Maya asked, voice carrying dangerous calm of someone setting an elaborate trap. Terminal PA crackled. "Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Washington Reagan National. All remaining passengers board immediately." Maya checked her Cartier watch, the timepiece catching airport lighting in ways that finally drew Janet's attention to details she should have noticed earlier. Premium briefcase, perfectly tailored blazer, first-class boarding pass now visible in Maya's jacket pocket. Something clicked in Janet's expression, dawning realization that this situation had spiraled beyond routine damage control. Mike Rodriguez stepped forward, 15 years of airport security telling him to de-escalate before whatever was brewing exploded completely. "Ladies, perhaps we could move this to a private setting," he suggested, radio buzzing with calls from supervisors alerted to viral live streams spreading across social media platforms. Corporate Security Chief Daniel Hayes was racing through terminals via golf cart, morning coffee abandoned for crisis management that would define his career. Maya's fourth phone call lasted exactly 30 seconds. Words too quiet for crowds, but loud enough for Janet to catch fragments. Federal oversight? Immediate compliance review? Terminal operating license? Janet's posture crumbled as she processed implications while Karen remained frozen, clutching torn passport fragments like evidence of her own stupidity. Witness count had reached 50 people, phones recording from every angle while Jessica Morgan provided commentary to 15,000-person audience growing by hundreds each minute. "Ma'am?" Janet tried again, voice betraying first hints of panic. "I'm authorized to offer compensation for inconvenience, perhaps upgrade to first class and meal voucher." Maya's laugh was soft but carried the edge of someone finding the offer insulting rather than generous. "First class?" Maya repeated, pulling boarding pass from jacket pocket and displaying gold lettering that marked premium seating. "I already have first class, along with Federal Oversight Authority your compensation offers won't address." Corporate Security Chief Daniel Hayes arrived at 6:58 a.m., golf cart's emergency lights drawing additional attention, while Airport Operations Manager Sarah Morgan emerged from Jetway, radio crackling with updates from nervous flight crews wondering why departure was delayed. The situation had evolved from routine complaint to full corporate crisis in 15 minutes, viral content spreading faster than United's public relations team could respond to mounting negative publicity cascading across every social platform. Captain Rodriguez appeared at the gate, pilot's uniform commanding immediate crowd respect as he approached with professional concern. "Is there a security issue preventing departure?" he asked Mike Rodriguez, but his attention fixed on Maya, whose calm demeanor in chaos suggested someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. Flight attendants gathered behind him, trained smiles faltering as they processed the scene unfolding at their gate. Maya's phone rang again, this time answered immediately. "Yes, Director. Situation escalating as expected. Federal intervention confirmed. Estimated timeline 12 minutes. She hung up and addressed the assembled group with closing argument precision. "We now have documented civil rights violations, destruction of federal documents, and failure to follow established boarding procedures, all captured on multiple recording devices and witnessed by 60 people." Janet's face went ashen, processing implications, while Karen finally found her voice. I was just doing my job, following security protocols. Words trailed off as Maya's expression shifted from calm to something that made every airline employee realize they were witnessing career-ending moments. Jessica Morgan's live stream had reached 20,000 viewers, comments demanding justice while hashtags multiplied faster than damage control teams could monitor trending topics. Security protocols, Maya repeated, voice carrying across terminal with crystal clarity, that specifically target passengers based on race rather than legitimate security concerns. The statement hung like an indictment, cameras capturing every word while crowds processed implications of witnessed discrimination. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, professional training recognizing situations requiring immediate intervention from someone with actual authority rather than gate-level management. Maya checked her watch with deliberate theatrical precision. 2 more minutes, she announced to no one in particular. Then everyone discovers exactly who they've been dealing with for the past 15 minutes. Her briefcase sat like a loaded weapon, contents hidden but somehow more threatening than anything visible, while 58 phone cameras recorded every second of what would become aviation history's most expensive customer service failure. The tension in Terminal C had reached breaking point. Corporate managers scrambling for solutions while Maya Johnson stood in the center holding cards that would soon reshape how every major airline handles passenger interactions. Karen Mitchell's 15-year career was about to end in spectacular fashion, though she wouldn't realize it until Maya revealed exactly why destroying that passport was the worst decision she'd ever made in her entire professional life. Maya's watch read exactly 7:00 a.m. when she reached into her briefcase with deliberate precision of someone who had waited 15 years for this moment. Her fingers found the leather credential wallet first, then the government-issued iPad that would transform every face in Terminal C from confusion to absolute terror. The crowd had grown to 70 people, Jessica Morgan's live stream hitting 25,000 as Maya stood slowly, movements carrying the weight of federal authority about to be unleashed. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya announced, voice cutting through terminal noise with courtroom clarity. My name is Inspector Maya Johnson, Federal Aviation Administration, Regulatory Compliance Division. She held up credentials for cameras, gold badge catching airport lighting, while her photo and federal ID number came into sharp focus on dozens of phone screens. Badge number 2847, Level 3 Inspector with oversight authority for all commercial aviation operations in the southeastern United States. The silence was absolute, broken only by distant air conditioning hum and Jessica Morgan's whispered commentary. Oh my God, y'all, she's a federal inspector. This just got real. Karen Mitchell's face went from pale to gray, torn passport pieces suddenly feeling like evidence in a federal case rather than fraudulent documents. Janet Williams stepped backward involuntarily, customer service training providing no protocols for federal aviation inspectors conducting unannounced compliance audits. Maya opened her iPad with practiced efficiency, device connecting automatically to federal databases that most airline employees feared but never saw. This morning's incident began as routine gate procedure inspection under Federal Aviation Regulation Part 139.301, designed to evaluate passenger processing compliance and anti-discrimination protocols at United Airlines Terminal C operations. Her fingers moved with surgical precision, each tap adding documentation to what was becoming aviation history's most comprehensive civil rights violation report. Mike Rodriguez found his voice first, security training helping him process the magnitude of witnessed events. Inspector Johnson, I observed the entire incident and can confirm discriminatory behavior by gate personnel. His statement carried across the terminal like a confession, other witnesses nodding while phones captured every word for posterity. Maya acknowledged him with professional nod that conveyed appreciation and promise that his cooperation would be noted in official reports. Destruction of federal identification documents, Maya continued, tone shifting to prosecutorial precision, represents violation of Federal Code Title 18, Section 506, punishable by fines up to $50,000 per incident and potential criminal charges. She turned her iPad screen toward assembled crowd, displaying real-time documentation including timestamps, witness statements, and video evidence automatically uploaded from her body camera. Additionally, discriminatory passenger screening violates Federal Aviation Act Section 47106, Civil Rights Act Title 6, and FAA Order 1600.78A regarding equal access provisions. Karen Mitchell's hands began trembling as the legal implications crashed over her like a tsunami. $50,000? She whispered, voice cracking as she realized her mortgage payment paled compared to federal fines that would destroy her financially for decades. Her 15 years of gate agent experience had never prepared her for the moment when casual racism would trigger federal criminal investigation captured by 30,000 live stream viewers demanding justice. Corporate Security Chief Daniel Hayes arrived via abandoned golf cart, approaching with careful movements of someone walking into a minefield. Inspector Johnson, I'm Daniel Hayes, Corporate Security for Atlanta Operations, and we take these allegations extremely seriously. Maya's expression suggested his assurances were 15 minutes too late and several federal violations, too few to matter at this point in the investigation. Janet Williams frantically dialed numbers while trying to maintain professional composure, cracking like ice in spring sunshine. Her calls went to regional office, legal counsel, public relations, each conversation growing more desperate as she realized viral content was spreading faster than corporate damage control could respond. "Yes, we have a situation," she whispered. "Federal inspector. Discrimination complaint. 30,000 viewers. Immediate legal consultation required." Maya accessed her second application, revealing Federal Aviation Administration inspection protocols that made airline employees visibly nervous. Unannounced compliance audits are conducted quarterly at major airports to ensure adherence to federal regulations regarding passenger treatment, security procedures, and anti-discrimination policies. She scrolled through documented violations with efficiency of someone who had memorized federal aviation law completely. Today's incident provides sufficient evidence for comprehensive investigation of United Airlines Terminal C operations, including employee training records, supervision protocols, and systemic compliance failures. Karen finally found her voice, though it emerged as barely audible whisper. "I didn't know. I was following procedures." Her words trailed off as Maya's attention shifted with laser focus. "Ms. Mitchell," Maya replied, consulting iPad for Karen's employee information that had somehow appeared on screen. 15-year employment record, 3 previous complaints filed with HR regarding passenger treatment, mandatory sensitivity training completed twice, most recently 8 months ago. The precision of Maya's information made clear that federal databases contained far more employee records than anyone realized. Jessica Morgan's live stream audience had exploded to 40,000 viewers, comments scrolling as digital waterfalls of outrage and support. "Y'all, I cannot believe what we're witnessing," she whispered to her phone. "A federal inspector just revealed systematic discrimination at America's busiest airport. This is about to change everything." Her live stream had been shared across every social platform. At Federal Inspector. Reveal trending nationwide as millions watched real-time justice unfold in Terminal C. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward with pilot authority commanding respect from federal inspectors and airline employees alike. "Inspector Johnson, speaking as captain of Flight 447, I formally apologize for your treatment and assure you this behavior doesn't represent United Airlines values or training standards." His statement was professional, but carried undertones suggesting he'd witnessed similar incidents during his 20-year career. Maya acknowledged his intervention with nod conveying respect while making clear individual apologies wouldn't address systemic problems. Maya's iPad chimed with incoming messages from Federal Aviation Administration headquarters. Updates she scanned with practiced efficiency of someone coordinating multi-agency investigations. Director Morgan has authorized immediate escalation to full compliance review, including examination of all Terminal C operations, employee training records, and supervision protocols over the past 24 months. She looked up to address the group with courtroom gravity. This investigation will determine whether United Airlines Atlanta operations maintain federal operating certification or face suspension pending remedial action. The weight of Maya's words settled over Terminal C like incoming storm clouds. 85 witnesses had recorded every second. 40,000 live-stream viewers had watched federal authority reveal itself in real time, and corporate managers were calculating financial implications of systematic discrimination documented by the inspector responsible for their operating license. Karen Mitchell stood frozen, still holding torn passport pieces that had transformed from evidence of her authority into proof of career-ending federal crime. Daniel Hayes attempted damage control with corporate speak sounding increasingly desperate. Inspector Johnson, we're prepared to implement immediate corrective action and provide full cooperation. Maya's response cut through his words like blade through paper. Mr. Hayes, this ceased being customer service issue when your employee destroyed federal identification documents while engaging in discriminatory behavior captured by multiple recording devices and witnessed by dozens of people. Janet Williams had gone completely silent. Phone calls finished. Realizing that no amount of corporate damage control could contain federal investigation broadcast live to 40,000 viewers and spreading across social media faster than United's legal team could draft responses. Her 20-year career in airline management had never prepared her for the moment when routine passenger discrimination would trigger federal aviation compliance review capable of shutting down operations at Atlanta's busiest terminal. Maya closed her iPad with finality suggesting inspection phase had concluded and enforcement action was beginning. We now transition from compliance evaluation to violation documentation and penalty assessment. She reached into briefcase again, retrieving forms that made every airline employee realize their morning had become the most expensive 15 minutes in United Airlines Atlanta history. The federal government had documented systematic discrimination in real time, broadcast to 40,000 viewers, with evidence sufficient to suspend operations at one of America's busiest airports. Karen Mitchell's hands shook as she finally understood that her casual racism had triggered federal criminal investigation that would follow her for the rest of her life. The quiet woman in the navy blazer had become the most powerful person in Terminal C, and her briefcase still contained documents that would determine whether United Airlines continued operating at Atlanta International Airport or faced federal suspension that would cost millions of dollars daily until compliance was restored. The revelation was complete, but Maya's true power was only beginning to show itself as she prepared to demonstrate exactly how much this moment of discrimination would cost everyone involved. Maya's iPad chimed with priority notification as chaos reached corporate boardrooms 3,000 miles away. Screen displaying, urgent, United Airlines Regional VP Sarah Martinez requesting immediate video conference. The notification appeared simultaneously on Daniel Hayes' phone, Janet Williams' device, and Airport Director James Thompson's emergency system, creating digital evidence trails that would become federal court exhibits within 48 hours. Conference room C14 is available for private discussion, Daniel Hayes suggested desperately, hoping to move away from 43,000 live-stream viewers. Maya's response carried federal authority. Compliance reviews are conducted in full public view, Mr. Hayes, particularly when discrimination occurs in public spaces witnessed by multiple parties. Her words made corporate executives realize that federal investigations don't accommodate their comfort levels. The video conference connected through airport systems, displaying Regional VP Sarah Martinez on a monitor that drew additional crowd attention as Jessica Morgan adjusted her live stream to capture corporate leadership responding to federal investigation in real time. Inspector Johnson, Martinez began, voice carrying 20 years of crisis management suddenly rendered inadequate. I'm Sarah Martinez, Regional Vice President, and I want to personally apologize while assuring complete cooperation. Maya consulted her iPad with methodical precision that made executives nervous, accessing databases containing financial information that transformed quarterly profits into federal evidence. Ms. Martinez, United Airlines reported $8.9 billion revenue last fiscal year, with Atlanta operations contributing $847 million annually through 340 daily flights serving 85,000 passengers. Each data point built toward financial penalties that would dwarf most companies' annual profits. Federal Aviation Administration fines for discrimination violations range from $50,000 to $2.5 million per incident, with additional penalties for document destruction and systemic compliance failures. Maya's voice carried across Terminal C while phones captured every word. Moreover, Section 47106 violations can result in suspension of federal operating certificates, affecting all commercial operations until compliance is restored. Sarah Martinez's face went pale as she processed financial implications, while Janet Williams stood frozen, realizing her career was ending in the most public way possible. Inspector Johnson, what would resolve this situation and ensure full compliance? Martinez asked, revealing corporate willingness to negotiate that federal investigators rarely encountered during routine reviews. Karen Mitchell's legs gave out slightly, forcing her to lean against the counter as the reality crashed over her like a tsunami. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she finally understood that 15 minutes of racist behavior would follow her through every background check, job application, and Google search for the rest of her life. The woman she'd humiliated was about to destroy her entire existence with federal paperwork. Maya opened penalty assessment protocols that made airline employees step backward involuntarily. Immediate requirements include suspension of all personnel involved, mandatory retraining for Terminal C staff within 30 days, implementation of federal monitoring systems, and financial settlement reflecting documented violation severity. Her words carried authority that could shut down America's busiest airport with a single compliance report. Financial settlement? Martinez repeated, voice betraying panic as she calculated damages potentially reaching tens of millions. Maya's prosecutorial response left no room for negotiation. Discrimination settlements in federal aviation cases typically range from $100,000 to $500,000 per incident, plus punitive damages, legal fees, and compliance monitoring costs extending over multiple years. Airport Director James Thompson arrived in golf attire, approaching like someone walking toward execution. Inspector Johnson, I'm James Thompson, Operations Director, and Atlanta International maintains the highest standards of passenger treatment. Maya's expression suggested his assurances were 45 minutes too late to prevent federal investigation that would reshape aviation industry practices permanently. Maya accessed real-time financial databases displaying United Airlines stock price dropping as discrimination investigations spread across trading platforms faster than corporate communications could respond. Current market capitalization shows $14.2 billion, with stock price declining 3.7% since this incident began trending. Her ability to track financial impact demonstrated federal oversight capabilities that made executives realize their every decision was monitored and evaluated continuously. Janet Williams found her voice, though it emerged as desperate whisper. Inspector Johnson, I've been with United for 20 years. I have children, a mortgage. This was a misunderstanding. Maya's response was delivered with surgical precision. Ms. Williams, your 20-year career included supervising an employee with 3 previous discrimination complaints, suggesting systematic failure rather than isolated incident. Implementation of the Maya Protocol, Maya continued, referencing procedures that didn't exist an hour earlier but would become industry standard within months, requires bias monitoring software on all staff devices, quarterly unannounced inspections, and cultural competency training investments totaling $500,000 annually. The precision suggested federal investigators had been planning systematic reforms long before this morning provided the perfect catalyst. Jessica Morgan's live stream had reached 60,000 viewers, her commentary providing analysis as millions watched corporate leadership attempt damage control during federal investigation broadcast live. Y'all, we're watching how federal government holds airlines accountable for discrimination. This is the most important live stream ever, she whispered, while capturing every corporate response for posterity. Karen Mitchell finally spoke, her voice breaking. "My daughter starts college next month. I can't afford lawyers." "I didn't mean—" Her words trailed off as Maya's attention shifted with laser focus. "Ms. Mitchell, your discriminatory actions were witnessed by 85 people and broadcast to 60,000 viewers. Intent becomes irrelevant when impact is documented through federal investigation." Sarah Martinez attempted final negotiation with obvious desperation. "Inspector Johnson, if United agrees to immediate implementation of all requirements, expedited settlement payments, and comprehensive retraining, could we resolve this without operational suspension?" Her question revealed corporate understanding that compliance reviews could shut down Terminal C until full compliance was restored. Maya's response carried federal authority building toward this moment since Karen first examined her passport. "Ms. Martinez, compliance isn't negotiable when systematic discrimination has been documented by federal investigators, witnessed by multiple parties, and broadcast to 60,000 viewers." Her words carried finality of someone whose recommendations would determine United's operational future. "Federal requirements are as follows," Maya announced, reading official documentation with government efficiency. "Immediate termination of Karen Mitchell. Suspension of Janet Williams pending investigation. Mandatory training for all Terminal C personnel within 30 days. Federal monitoring software installation. Quarterly compliance audits. And financial settlement of $150,000 plus punitive damages determined by federal assessment." The silence was broken only by airport announcements and Jessica Morgan's commentary as 60,000 viewers watched executives process demands that would cost more than most companies earned annually. Karen Mitchell's 15-year career had ended with torn passport pieces. Janet Williams faced investigation that would follow her for decades. And United Airlines learned that discrimination carried price tags measured in millions. Maya closed her iPad with finality suggesting federal investigation had concluded initial phases and enforcement was beginning immediately. The quiet woman in navy blazer had demonstrated exactly how much power federal aviation inspectors wielded when airlines failed to protect passengers from systematic discrimination, captured by witnesses and broadcast to millions demanding justice. Corporate boardrooms were scrambling to implement requirements that would reshape how every major airline trained employees, monitored behavior, and responded to complaints that could trigger compliance reviews capable of shutting down operations at America's busiest airports until federal compliance was completely restored. The transformation began immediately. Within 20 minutes of Maya's federal requirements announcement, Karen Mitchell's employee badge was deactivated, her access to United Airlines systems terminated, and her 15-year career officially ended with a termination notice that would appear in every future background check. She walked through Terminal C one final time, carrying a cardboard box containing personal items, while 65,000 live-stream viewers watched her professional destruction unfold in real time across social media platforms. Janet Williams faced a different fate, but equally devastating consequences. Her suspension pending federal investigation meant months without income while lawyers examined 20 years of employment records, searching for patterns of discriminatory supervision that federal investigators would scrutinize with microscopic precision. "I have to call my husband," she whispered to no one in particular, realizing their mortgage payments would become impossible during the investigation period that could extend for years. Maya's iPad displayed implementation timelines that would reshape United Airlines operations permanently. "The Maya protocol becomes effective immediately at all United facilities nationwide," she announced, her words carrying weight of federal mandate that would influence aviation industry practices for decades. "Real-time bias monitoring applications will be installed on staff devices within 72 hours, with quarterly compliance audits replacing annual reviews to ensure systematic discrimination prevention." Mike Rodriguez emerged as an unexpected hero, his willingness to report discriminatory behavior earning formal commendation in Maya's federal report. Security Officer Rodriguez demonstrated proper intervention protocols and will receive additional training certification as Federal Compliance Observer, Maya stated, her recognition transforming his morning from routine security work into career advancement that would follow him through promotions and salary increases for years to come. Corporate response accelerated with military precision as United Airlines legal teams worked frantically to minimize federal penalties that could reach tens of millions if systematic discrimination was discovered during comprehensive investigation. Sarah Martinez authorized immediate settlement payments totaling $150,000 to Maya personally, plus additional compensation for emotional distress, legal fees, and punitive damages that federal assessors would calculate over coming months. The financial impact spread beyond individual settlements. United's stock price had dropped 4.2% since viral footage began spreading, representing approximately $600 million in lost market capitalization within 3 hours of Karen Mitchell tearing Maya's passport. Investment analysts published reports warning of potential federal aviation compliance costs that could affect quarterly earnings for multiple fiscal years as industry-wide reforms were implemented. Jessica Morgan's live stream had become the most watched discrimination documentation in social media history, her 68,000 viewers sharing footage across every platform while #MayaProtocol began trending globally. "Y'all just witnessed how one woman's courage changed an entire industry," she told her audience. "This is what real accountability looks like when federal inspectors refuse to let discrimination slide." Implementation of systematic reforms began within hours. Cultural competency training programs were developed specifically for aviation personnel, addressing racial bias, proper documentation procedures, and federal compliance requirements that most airline employees had never fully understood. The training budget of $500,000 annually represented United's investment in preventing future incidents that could trigger federal investigations capable of shutting down operations. Federal monitoring software was installed across Terminal C operations, tracking passenger interactions, complaint patterns, and employee behavior through algorithms designed to identify discriminatory practices before they escalated to federal violations. The technology represented unprecedented oversight of airline customer service, with data transmitted directly to Federal Aviation Administration databases for real-time compliance monitoring. Maya's professional reputation was enhanced rather than damaged by the morning's events. Federal investigators who documented systematic discrimination while maintaining composure under hostile conditions typically received commendations, promotions, and increased oversight responsibilities. Her handling of the situation would become case study material in federal training programs, demonstrating how individual courage could trigger systematic institutional change. Airport operations continued with heightened awareness of federal oversight capabilities. Terminal C employees understood that every passenger interaction could potentially involve federal inspectors conducting unannounced compliance evaluations, creating culture of respectful treatment that extended far beyond legal requirements. The Maya Protocol would influence how millions of travelers were treated at airports nationwide. Captain Rodriguez personally escorted Maya to her rescheduled flight, her first-class seat upgraded to premium cabin with formal written apology from United Airlines leadership. The standing ovation she received from passengers boarding Flight 447 was captured by phone cameras, creating additional viral content that reinforced public support for federal discrimination enforcement in commercial aviation. Media coverage expanded beyond social media into mainstream news outlets, with CNN, NBC, and ABC featuring segments about federal aviation compliance and passenger rights during discrimination incidents. Maya's calm professional response became template for how federal inspectors handle hostile situations while documenting violations that could affect entire industries through systematic reform requirements. The resolution demonstrated that intellectual approach and federal authority could achieve more comprehensive change than aggressive confrontation or viral shaming. Maya's methodical documentation had triggered industry-wide reforms that would protect millions of future travelers from discriminatory treatment, proving that systematic change required institutional pressure rather than individual revenge. Within 24 hours, the Maya Protocol was being adopted by airlines nationwide, as industry leaders recognized that federal compliance was more cost-effective than facing federal investigations that could shut down operations until full regulatory compliance was restored through expensive systematic reforms. 6 months later, the Maya Protocol had transformed commercial aviation across America. Discrimination complaints at major airports dropped 73% where federal monitoring systems were implemented, replacing viral videos of airport bias incidents with touching stories of respectful treatment that passengers shared across social media platforms. The quiet woman in the navy blazer had achieved something unprecedented: systematic change through intellectual courage rather than viral confrontation. Maya Johnson received federal commendation for her handling of the Atlanta incident, her professional composure under hostile conditions, becoming case study material in Federal Aviation Administration training programs. Her methodical documentation approach was adopted as standard protocol for compliance inspectors nationwide, demonstrating how individual federal employees could trigger institutional reforms that protected millions of travelers from discriminatory treatment. Karen Mitchell's story became cautionary tale circulated through airline training programs as example of how 15 minutes of racist behavior could destroy careers, trigger federal investigations, and cost companies millions in penalties and compliance reforms. Her termination appeared in background checks that prevented employment at any airport facility, while her viral humiliation followed her through social media searches that employers routinely conducted during hiring processes. The financial impact extended far beyond individual settlements. United Airlines invested $2.3 million in Maya Protocol implementation across all facilities, while industry-wide compliance costs reached $47 million as airlines scrambled to avoid federal investigations similar to Atlanta's Terminal C review. Stock market analysts noted that discrimination incidents now carried measurable financial risks that affected quarterly earnings and investor confidence. Jessica Morgan's live-stream documentation earned journalism recognition for real-time civil rights reporting, her 68,000 viewers expanding into permanent audience for social justice content that highlighted Black stories and real-life stories of discrimination being challenged through federal oversight. Her footage became evidence in multiple civil rights lawsuits filed against airlines that failed to implement adequate anti-discrimination training. Federal oversight capabilities demonstrated during Maya's revelation changed how airlines approached customer service training, with employees understanding that any passenger interaction could involve federal inspectors conducting unannounced compliance evaluations. The psychological impact created culture of respectful treatment that extended beyond legal requirements into genuine customer service improvements. Maya's legacy transcended individual justice to achieve systematic transformation. The protocols bearing her name protected countless travelers from discriminatory treatment while providing federal authorities with tools to hold airlines accountable for employee behavior. Her calm professionalism under hostile conditions proved that intellectual approach and institutional knowledge could achieve more comprehensive change than viral confrontation or individual revenge. The Atlanta incident became catalyst for broader civil rights enforcement in commercial aviation, with Federal Aviation Administration expanding compliance reviews to address systematic discrimination that had been ignored for decades. Maya's documentation techniques were incorporated into federal training programs, ensuring future inspectors could trigger institutional reforms when airlines failed to protect passengers from bias-motivated treatment. Real-life stories emerging from Maya Protocol implementation inspired countless travelers to document and report discrimination, understanding that federal oversight provided meaningful recourse for civil rights violations in commercial aviation. The touching stories of respectful treatment replaced viral humiliation videos, demonstrating how systematic change could transform entire industries through federal compliance enforcement. Have you witnessed discrimination during travel? Share your experiences and Black stories in the comments below. Your real-life stories matter and can drive change when federal oversight holds institutions accountable for employee behavior. Subscribe for more inspiring life stories of everyday heroes who refuse to stay silent when confronting systematic discrimination. Together, We transform systems one courageous federal inspection at a time, proving that intellectual courage and institutional knowledge create lasting change that protects millions of future travelers.